Asking for It, a Novel Approach. Episode 26. Chapter 104. Brandy has slept long and well. When she gets up, the first thing she does is turn on the TV. She wanders blearily into her bathroom, brushes her teeth, and wanders blearily back through the apartment to the kitchen and her Keurig. The refrigerator flat screen has come on in tandem with the big set in the living room. She's vacantly staring into it while her coffee hisses into existence. The generic News and Views show could be about anything. The newsreaders' faces, boat traffic on Biscayne Bay, aerial view of a bevy of squad cars surrounding an SUV, doors open, large black man face down on the pavement. The images are all underscored with the ticker tape headlines. Brandy's wondering when these Keurig people are going to hurry up and create the machine that will deliver her triple flat, non-fat, cream and stevia, mixed and ready to drink. She's still pondering it when she hears the front door. Dick shucks his trainers there and pads up the little hall to the kitchen. He gives her a cheerful, "Hey, sleepyhead," and sets down an empty quart bottle of Evian on the countertop. He's back from his morning run. His sets of chin-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups were all done an hour ago, before he drove down to the beach for that run. He splashes some cold water on his face at the sink, straightens up and smiles at Brandy's still sleepy expression. Noticing the simmering Keurig, he takes over fixing her coffee for her. Brandy receives her cup with a purr of pleasure and savors a sip or two while Dick scoops things out of the fridge. Pineapple yogurt, almond butter and honey, English muffins and an orange juice. When he's set it all out on the countertop, he stops dead, staring hard at the refrigerator. "Brandy, quick! Where's the remote?" She absently hands it over to him, and he turns up the volume. "Wow, Bill, back in the news after 10 years, and it's another disappearing act. For a sports celebrity, this is one camera-shy guy." The news duo are hobnobbing beside a publicity shot of The Edge, in his early 30s, spade-bearded and with a sheepish grin, sporting a big gaudy champion's belt as well. "Oh, I've got to Reddit this." While he opens a laptop and searches the item, Brandy looks at Dick as if he's engineered this bit of media all by himself. Jesus, listen to this. The one-time world champion apparently drove his Porsche from Los Angeles before abandoning it in the desert interior of Joshua Tree National Park. No signs of foul play are apparent, but local authorities are treating the incident as suspicious. All those in the park over the past 2 days are urged to report any blah, blah, blah. "Hey, let's call Kayla." "I don't know, Brandy, it's pretty early out there. Let's see, maybe 5:30 in the morning." "I'm calling." "Oh, you're not going to believe this. There's another story. And guess who's starring in this one?" "Oh, wow. If this one gets into the mainstream, she'll have it made." "Kayla?" "Yeah, Kayla. Listen, the dominatrix had been beating the champ up for fun and money before jilting him for some talent agent. Lance Abierti. She's quoted as saying, 'Some guys just beg for it. I'm no one's babysitter.' What does that even mean?" "Oh, it doesn't matter. Listen, this shit is getting hits. Being half famous before she's even out of bed this morning." "I don't care. I'm calling her." Chapter 105. Meekness does not feel pride at possibly pissing in Abierti's eau de vie. Neither does he feel remorse. The budding romance will likely suffer from the publicity. Lance will be more careful what he wishes for. This is really the girl's doing. Even if he put her wise, well, Abierti put them together in the first place, dictating terms as usual. Not many people get to have their cake and eat it too. If Lance wants to eat this particular cake, he'll be sucking up some humble pie on the side. Besides, he more or less commissioned the first draft of this whole spectacle himself. In case he's forgotten, this is Hollywood. Everything is stolen. Then it gets amplified. Tit, tit, tit for tat. Manfred stares straight through his little laptop's display as he hammers out a scene of producer meets prospect. His big spatulate fingertips strike the little apple's dimpled keys far too forcefully, muscle memory of the manual typist. Noise that his mind's been aware of in the abstract suddenly becomes bad popular music, distraction. It grows louder, and Meekness is on his feet, pissed off and prepared to do battle. Then he realizes he's invited the interruption himself. From the kitchen window, he peers out to see Mina Weingarten in her full gangbanger regalia, baggy denim shorts, headscarf, etc. She's wrestling her lowrider into the little alleyway between the cottage and the neighbor. From her handlebars dangles a chunky black isosceles triangle, roughly the size of an alarm clock, and apparently the source of the unfortunate musical distraction. He welcomes her into the kitchen with an abbreviated sweep and a bow. Coffee is prepared and consumed as they set about the business of influencing reality through the judicious application of fictive force. Mina, or Miami Cut, marshals the found art of Michaela's current affairs. She prepares press releases and issues tidbits to Facebook, the Twitter sphere, and beyond. Meekness takes her cues and spins out story ideas until the divergent strands begin intersecting and can be made to converge. Later, they'll see about giving their collaboration a thoroughgoing Hollywood makeover. For now, they concentrate on the business of exploiting variously camera-ready aspects of life as Michaela, Lance, and the Edge experience it. Ruth Ann returns 2 hours later. She glides up the little sidewalk along the canal, unlatches the rustic gate, and parks her e-bike under the bougainvillea in Charlie's backyard. Taking the precaution of peering through the little window in the alley, she can just make out a pair of complementary, sprawling postures. Meekness is in the shadows on the living room floor. Mina, stretched at full length with laptop open before her, still doesn't fill the antique couch she's on. The room's large rear window is utterly shrouded by the variety of plant life outside. The only significant light emanates from their laptop displays. The scene reminds Ruth Ann that Meekness is the only person she's ever known capable of writing in complete darkness. And that was in the days before illuminated computer screens. On the verge of sleep, he'd scratch notes into his moleskins, his pen and the pages seeming like natural extensions of himself. In the mornings, she'd wake first and often find a notebook on the floor, open to opposing pages decorated in an indecipherable scrawl that Meekness would later contemplate as he began writing in earnest. If he hadn't saved so many of those notebooks, filled with this inky filigree, she would never have believed him actually able to discriminate in them the armature of ideas. Ruth Ann keeps the door from banging shut behind her. She sets down her little backpack of groceries on the kitchen daybed. The murmuring in the dark beyond ceases. There's a delighted little shriek as Mina bounds up from the couch, shoots out of the darkness, and flings herself about the taller woman's neck. "Ruth Ann, you're staying! I'm so psyched! I want to braid your hair. I want to know everything about Berlin. You can teach me how to walk, would you? Like a fierce Nordic queen, I mean. Like the world's my runway. I could braid your hair. Did I say that?" "Manfred, what have you done?" Mina, yes, I will be staying for a little while longer. I'm happy you're happy. If you release me now, I'll make us some sandwiches. Manfred remains rattling the keys of his apple in the dark. Mina skips around the kitchen like an excited puppy for another minute or two. When she settles down, she slouch leans against the kitchen counter, doing her best Miami cut, arms crossed on her small chest, legs crossed at the ankles, smug eyes following Ruth Ann's every movement. Ruth Ann gives her a sidelong glance and suspends sandwich making a moment. Miami Cut is waggling one immaculate high-top Air Jordan. Mina, you've changed your look. Yeah, I know, equal parts hood rat and big dog on the block, right? I can't bring myself to bulk up at the gym or anything, but I make up for it with my badass attitude, don't you think? Oh, absolutely. Chapter 106. Not yet out of his 60s, and all of his older friends are gone. Jim's has lost so many to cancer of late, he is sick of it. Almost literally, the mere mention of the disease dips him into a depression that can last the day long. He wonders how young people must feel. Is the frequency of earlier and earlier diagnoses desensitizing them, leaving them cold till it hits close enough to home? He knows so many casualties, so many ailing, operated upon and ailing anew. For Jim's, cancer seems omnipresent. It almost feels he might have it himself. Though trim and fit enough for his age, life grows shorter, day by day. A sense of urgency creeps upon him. At the same time, something keeps him from attacking what's most important. Projects that could offset the brute reality of his mortal waning. He relies so heavily on Maxine these days. Everyone is, as they say, dying from birth. The cliché rings truer than ever, though. It is very difficult to invert that one. We are living again from the moment we die? Well, perhaps the Hindu's karmic wheel allows for that, but in his bones Jim's only feels the steady advance of entropy. It prevents his appreciating life as any transformation of energies, the growth and decay as simple forces weighing on one side and the other of some ontological scales. Virtually friendless, routinely aching and fatigued, he's calmly considered approaches to suicide. The prospect of a natural death's slithering arrival gives him such horrors. Regardless how far off that arrival remains, he fears the terrible powerlessness that will accompany it. And he'd been so sure he'd feel otherwise. With alarming frequency, Jim's finds himself gently weeping. He's been thinking more and more on his early life. As an adolescent, he'd often dreamt without terror of a grim reaper figure. The scythe had always been grasped in elegantly manicured fingers. Hooded cloak and shadows would briefly reveal the pale curve of a breast. Well before pursuing his undergraduate studies, Jim's read up on as many deifications of death as he could find. From Mot, the ancient Phoenicians' god of death, he'd worked his way east to west, from antiquity to the present, fascinated by each culture's efforts to make meaning of the end. The subject of death led him a merry Tottentanz from culture to culture until he took his rooms at Oxford. He'd encountered more and more female personifications of death, more goddesses requiring life sacrifices. In his freshman semester, coming upon the Attis and Cybele myth, he began an academic pursuit of woman worship. An intuitive transition had taken place. He'd leave the studies in death, however applied, to others. Jims is spending long hours in his reading room without removing a book from the shelves. He daydreams, images of exalted womanhood and fearfully revered death visiting him by turns. The irony of this undisciplined maundering irks him. Despite his mature life's work making something concrete from his deference to woman, he feels nothing of substance about him. And still, he remains unprepared for the fundamental, final and inescapable submission. He will not, as the Welshman implored, go gentle into that good night. His father had gone gently. Jims was put in mind of the fact quite abruptly some weeks ago. An old friend of his mother's had recently passed away. A parcel arrived from her lawyer's office. The contents had been in the woman's possession since Jims's mother had died. It was being forwarded now, a brief note explained, against his father's last wishes, but according with his mother's. Wrapped in plain brown paper and tied crosswise with string, the package contained a short stack of folio pages. The pages were covered in a spidery handwriting, organized in stanzas of unvarying length, all in the fading ink of a fountain pen. The pages were gathered in a folder of ironed leather, stamped on its face with the letters J.I.T.S. James Irvine Terence Streetheart, Jims's father. Jims remembered his father, a shade wandering the dimmer precincts of their manor home, drink in hand, the embodiment of melancholy. But the man he'd known so little in childhood had also apparently been a poet. A disappointed and dissolute poet, perhaps, but a poet nonetheless. Jims reads over the pages alone in his study, feeling every bit his father's son. Never mind the verses unfurl almost apologetically, the revelation of his father's cultivating this creative urge late in life heartens the similarly aged Jims now. His mother had disdained leaving her name on so much as a gravestone in England. She'd made a pilgrimage to Malta at the very end, all but forbidding Jims bring her there. His father's verses, mysteriously, belatedly arrived, are easily the most personal trace left to Jims of either parent. Most are plainly testament to his mother's claims on Streetheart Sr.'s heart. Some are overburdened with pathos, several are plain sentiment and doggerel. Then Jims comes upon Burial at Death's Hand. It is inspired, and impressively so, by a painting Jims's mother had always detested, a somber fantasy by a splenetic Swiss painter, Carlos Schwab. The piece had hung in a lesser salon of their Oxford home. La Mort du Fossière depicts death as a beautiful dark angel. She is squatting elegantly on the lip of a grave. The tips of her majestic, raven-black wings dip into the grave itself, touching an aged, now awe-stricken grave-digger. His grip is sprung loose of his shovel's wooden shaft. The angel's expression is placid, chin raised slightly, eyes lidded while gazing down upon the life expiring there. New fallen snow lightly blankets the surrounding tombstones. Beneath the hem of the angel's black robe, her naked feet are impervious to cold. Transfixed, mere inches below, the aged digger subsides beneath her gaze. Earth spills from his upended shovel, back into the grave he has all but completed. Death neither demeans nor dignifies the ragged laborer. She does redefine him. Guarding the shimmering essence of his life in one hand, her other hand eloquently indicates the heavens. In the foreground, Escaping the snowbound earth at the near edge of the grave, a scattering of tiny, almost transparent crocuses suggest life's renewal. The painting held a vaguely forbidden fascination for the young Jims. Periodically, his mother would rail against the thing's facile subject, what she considered its morbid and juvenile theme. And yet it hung in their home, albeit in a spare room, for as long as Jims could remember. Practically speaking, the room had been his father's. The elder Streetheart would emerge from it hours after last disappearing from the family's life. It must have been he that acquired the painting, and guarded it against his wife's ire. It may have been his solitary act of defiance in their long marriage. Though all too remote, Jims's father had not been the type to abandon wife or child. He, in fact, rarely left the house. Seen through the lens of inertia and port wine, Jims Streetheart Sr. was reduced to caricature. His poems, however, elaborate some of Jims's own deeply seated sentiments. He reads again, with some discomfort, lines extolling the wife's supremacy in the poet's life. How little Jims had known this father. Distant as he had remained in life, the man hewed closely to his son's own perspective in these verses. How strange to read them. Strangeness and heartbreak attend the husband unmanned. Weakness and need rendered with the fixity of pornography. Finally, the verses are mere earnest attempts, far from deathless poetry. Perhaps 2 slim collections worth. There is craft evident. Jims's father had obviously labored over them. He'd also intended his son never see them. Jims leaves the folios, and their sentiments trussed up once more in their string and paper packet. What poetry best remains sealed and bound? The thought, the question occurs to him, a bitter joke, as he reties the knot in the string. Chapter 107. Lance fights the temptation to crawl back between the cheap cotton sheets. He offers to make Michaela a coffee, but she grimaces at the prospect. She'd rather try for a little more shut-eye. They snuggle a while, then he gets up to go again. Neither of them has slept well. Despite herself, Michaela has worried about the edge from the moment Lance told her about the rental car. Of course, Edgy is tough enough to fend for himself, but this desert disappearance of his is just plain creepy. What if the only predator he has to worry about is himself? It's a stupid idea, and she dismisses it. Minutes after Lance is gone to do whatever so goddamned important, her cell buzzes on the bedside table. She looks at Brandy's name on the display, uncomprehending for a minute this communication, it seems, from another world, another life. "Kayla, where the hell have you been? I've been calling for days. What the hell is going on with you guys? I thought you were making movies out there. Where's Knuckles? I thought you guys were in love. Come on now, talk to me. Dick says you're..." "Yeah, hi, Brandy. Okay, shut the fuck up a minute, would you, honey? Okay. Kinda asking all the same questions of myself just now. Not the love thing, but yeah, no real answers yet. And yeah, bit crazy out here, so nothing much to report, really. How about you? Life good?" "Bitch. Whore. Okay, just checking. Make sure my notorious bestie isn't in some kind of trouble she can't handle, for example. All right. I love you too. So if you love me, let me know." Jesus, I don't know, Brandy. It was all so weird back there in the first place. Beating on the edge, Lance waiting on me like a slave. You don't even want to know where that all ended up. Well, you probably do, but I can't go there right now. But you will go there eventually. Yeah. But then we got out here and everything got a bit more normal. You know, Edgy and I sharing a room. No sex or anything, but we were hanging out. It was nice. What about the movies? Stunts. Nope. No stunts, no movies, nothing. Finally started meeting a few people when Lance turned up again. And this is where you tell me how that all ended up, right? No. But get this. He rode out here on a motorcycle. Shows up all cocky and confident like a different guy. Completely. And so you... No. Well, not just like that. I knew it. You did not. I did. And Knuckles? He just bowed out without a fight? I don't know. You're the prying investigator. I should put you on a retainer to sort this shit out for me. He's just gone. Disappeared. And I feel like shit half the time. Half. And the other half you're in bed with... Oh, God, Brandy. Listen, it was amazing. It's not like he's hung like a horse or anything. More like a mountain lion, really. Fuck off. And he snuffles. Like a hog in the bush. Except you're the bush and he doesn't miss an inch, believe me. Oh, and when the time comes, he howls. Just like a wolf. Arrgh! You're fucking with me. Yeah, I am. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got shit to figure out. I'll get back to you when I have some genuine news. Now, bye-bye. Lance is restless. The cop he's been speaking with makes it sound like the Edge is some dangerous fugitive. Like Lance is maybe hiding him, and that LA's finest will soon be delivering them both to justice. Staff sergeant in charge of spectacle, thinks Lance with a shrug. His beat is half of Hollywood, after all. This rationalizing can't quite dispel the anxiety, though. What is happening with the Edge? There's trouble there. Will it spread elsewhere in his life? He notes a fleeting desire to log on somewhere for a psychosexual dressing down. Distraction? Reward? What kind of stress relief did those twisted midnight sojourns amount to, really? The Sofitel's lobby suddenly feels like a no-man's land. Lance is in the dead center of its polished expanse when his iPhone rings. Abierti! Myself. How are you, Gabe? I'm perturbed. I think that's the word for it. That circus around the table at Pearl's was bad enough, but missing persons? SM prostitution? Really? I'm not sure I want my daughter mixed up in your little scandal. Whoa, okay. I understand your concerns here, Abe. I do. But couple things, right? This is L.A., not Victorian London. Even if we had one, a dominatrix does not represent scandal so much as free publicity. And no offense now, but I'm 99% that Mina's driving all of this thing herself. We're genuinely concerned about the Edge. But come on, the rest of it stinks of spin and fling, Abe. Who is we, exactly? You and Chesty Morgan there really an item? Now that's just plain provocative, pal. She's an entertainer. Take 2 Xanax. Call your daughter. Lance hangs up. He looks around the lobby, checks his watch, and decides to give Michaela another hour to sleep. Waiting for his call to Jenna to go through, he walks out onto the valet's station for the morning breeze. He listens to her enthusiastic report of nothing but good going on with the clients. Is it another good thing that she's heard nothing of what is going on out here? He gives her a slightly redacted version and hears her muted, "Wow," in response. Nothing to worry about if we don't hear any bad news about the fighter, that is. No, it's just I'm looking online. Huffington Post has a pic of you in head-to-toe black leather. muy macho, I'd say. But there's definitely a homoerotic angle they're working. And like maybe you've got something to do with the champ's disappearance, too. God damn, she's good. Pardon? Nothing. Listen, Jenna, just hold the fort, okay? Let me know if anything complicated comes up. Oh, I almost forgot. A James Streetheart called. English guy, sounded a little low. Jim's. Okay. Thanks, Jenna. If he calls back before I get to him, give him this number, could you? Thanks. Oh, wait a minute. There was a strange voicemail, too. Pretty cryptic. Probably nothing but... Shoot, I've heard it all this week. Just a sec. I'm listening to it again now myself. Oh, right. It was a woman. She says, "Don't forget, don't think, just rest. You've earned it." Well. Thoughtful little reminder. Thanks again, Jenna. Now keep up the good work. Only let me know if anyone sounds like they're about to jump ship. Oh, and nothing from the stunts manager, I guess? But Jenna is on to the next business. Never wastes a minute, that one. Olivia Craint. Lance wonders if her next communique will include a bill. He's half expecting the air to fill with pheromones the way it did at Pearl's. He makes a note to call Jim's when he's got a handle on the day's direction. Interesting times. Honestly, which way is this all going? He walks around the hospitality counter inside the lobby and finds an LA Times. If it makes it in here, that represents another level. Or does it, really? You can't beat the papers for credible journalism, but they can't compare with social media if your business is making what's rumored into perceived reality. Some of his friends still read newspapers, but under 40, you'd probably never open one, unless you were lining your cat's litter box or something. There's nothing in the front section anyway. Lance experiences a twinge of fellow feeling for the principled journalists still clinging to their métier. Without them, the world is less knowable than it would be without scientists. And that's where we're all headed. Just around the bend, the wide world's events blending to a hash, significantly distorted if reported at all. Anything's game in the rapidly digestible soundbite world. And oops, okay, here it is. Page 1 of the sports section. Mercifully, there's not much beyond the Edge's career story condensed, his ducking out of the fight game never demystified, and some suggestion of a tricky play at resurfacing to regain his crown. Apparently, the Edge is still revered enough to escape the more salacious tendencies of the new press. Give them another day or two, Lance thinks. He takes the paper to a plump leather couch and opens it once more, this time almost reverently. Spreading it on his lap, he updates himself with the world's events. The range of what you can expect to find in a newspaper is a good part of its appeal. Anything discoverable by dint of a journalist's determination, everything short of the hateful or willfully misleading. The big takeaway is that online, even the unreportable gets served up fake news. Illuminati conspiracies and cancer cures get reported, in quotes, as blithely as the weather. Lance has slumped a little on the lobby couch, his posture defeated. None of the well-heeled guests transiting the lobby will note it, but he can picture himself shaking his head and mumbling, prematurely old from care, disappointed by life, from its immediate glittering surface to its wholly corrupt core. Then he feels Michaela's unmistakably meaty hands grip him by the shoulders. As his body melts further into the leather upholstery, his spirits rise up like the eternal phoenix. She's walked up behind his seat and leans over him. He looks up into her face. Within the tent of her hair, their faces close, Lance feels the years and cares melt away. For one more blissful moment all is well in the world, until a passing lapdog yaps between its owner's augmented breasts. Lance comes to with a start, momentarily devastated that Michaela is not there with him.